That clock is always off.
All right. Well, welcome everyone. I'll call the meeting, December 17th, 2024 meeting of the Owen County Advisory Plan Commission to order. First order of business is number 2 is Pledge of Allegiance. Everyone please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Susan, roll call please.
Chad Van Ryan, Norm Warner.
Here.
Mike Swafford.
Here.
Kenneth Sebastian.
Here.
Amy Meyer. Here. Donna McIntyre. Here. Bill Purcell. Bob Curry. Amy Kingston.
Okay, you have before you the November the 19th, 2024 minutes for our meeting at our joint meeting between the committee and the commission on November the 19th, 2024 at McCormick's Creek Elementary School. Would entertain a motion?
And I wasn't there, so I missed.
I'll motion to approve since we're shorthanded.
Second.
All right, motion by me, seconded by Ken. All in favor, by show of hands. 5-0, okay. Now, those are only planning commission business for the night. However, we were going to set up tonight's meeting as a joint committee meeting of the UDO Rewrite Committee. The chair, Bill Purcell, has had some medical issues. He's not here tonight. So there's a couple of things I'd like to do before we get started going through this list. First off, we need to set a vice chair, and I'd also like to appoint a secretary for that committee so that someone can start compiling these notes together and so we can get them into one document so everybody can be shared with them. We should have probably done it last time, but we're going to do it tonight. So the committee members that are here, raise your hands so I can remember who you all are. 1, 2. Okay. So here's what we're looking for. It'll be by show of hands, but I need a nomination for the vice chair of the committee. Someone that can run the meetings whenever Bill may or may not be able to be here, depends on what his medical condition and status is. Okay? So would anyone like to volunteer for that? You'll do it? Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else interested in doing that? You'll put your name in. Okay. Anyone else? So by show of hands for the committee members, sir, what?
William Gant.
William Gant. By show of hands, if you're for William Gant to be vice chair. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you'll have to remind me your name. Walter Newman as vice chair by show of hands. 2, 3, 4. So Mr. Gant, you got it 5-4. Secretary. Now this is going to be a person that will take notes, and you'll come up here tonight. Both of you will come up and take a seat. I want you to take notes on any changes that are made tonight so that we can get them to Bill and to Mr. Gant, and then we can get them compiled into something that we can all look at as we work through this thing, okay? So would anyone like to volunteer to be the secretary? You know you want to do it.
He says, I don't think so. That was all, like, no.
We really need one because otherwise we're going to waste a lot of time trying to pull this thing together. We need one person that has all the documents.
I have a question.
Yes.
Will that individual have access to be able to confirm their notes with some of the committee members to make sure that everything was heard correctly and documented correctly, or do they get a chance to hear the recording
So
to be accurate?
what you will do is you'll be recording the meeting as well. That's what the secretary does. So you'll have to get that into some sort of minutes that you would then present to the group, just like we did tonight on our minutes, and then everybody would have to agree. So if there's discrepancies, then it's brought up here. If we get a typo or something gets left out, somebody will say, you know, this needs to say this, everybody agrees to it, and then you put that in the amended minutes, and then you vote on it.
So does Suzanne get to help and direct?
What's that?
Will she be able to help and direct? Because I've never done
Well,
secretarial work before.
unfortunately, her involvement with the committee is limited because she works for the commissioners. So the committee, after tonight, is going to be meeting on its own. So we won't be in your way. Vice versa, you're going to have to find places to meet, you're going to have to coordinate. So that's the catalyst for getting extra bodies in management positions, for lack of a better way of saying it, because you have to be very organized as you go through this thing, or it's going to become a monster, more so than it already has. Okay? So, with that being said, I still need a secretary. All right. Anybody else? That's the lowest hand I've ever seen for a volunteer. All right. Yes, sir.
I could help with the secretary.
If that's what, I mean, what you,
She's okay with it.
so, yeah. Okay, so can we agree by show of hands, this lady will be our secretary? Sir, what's your name?
John Schrock.
John Schronk, and I've seen some emails going back and forth from you. So I would say team up on it. What one of you don't hear, the other one does. Let's get it written down, and then definitely when we start talking about changes and things we're going to add or omit, we need to make sure we got those right. Okay, so if you three would come up here and take a seat somewhere up here, and then get your writing hand ready to go. All right. The other thing that I will say, yes, ma'am.
What's the secretary's name? Dora Brown.
Huh?
She wanted to know my name, Dora Brown.
Dora Brown?
Thank you.
Uh-huh. All right. So we've gotten a little bit into this. We wasted didn't waste, but we burned up a lot of time talking about the same thing we talked about before. I want this to be a focused committee meeting where we talk about the changes that need to be made to this document. We are 8 pages in. There's 146 or something like that. If we go at a rate of 8 pages per meeting, you're going to be meeting until all of us are old and gray. Okay? So let's get focused on it. And we are getting a hard cutoff at 8:30. 2 hours is enough for anybody to think about this stuff. Okay? All right. With that being said, Mr. Gant, I will turn this meeting over to you. You are running the committee.
Okay.
And make sure you turn your microphones on so we can hear you, everybody.
Based on the notes I had from our last meeting, we stopped on page 8 of what your all's handout was.
That was my understanding.
Yeah, the UDO Administration Plan Commission.
I'm going to bring these down to you. These are Bill's notes.
Okay.
When you get done with them tonight, we need to give them to Susan, and he can pick them up, and maybe she can get him, or he can make photocopies for you, so you'll have them as well.
Okay.
And then it wouldn't be a bad idea to get another copy to her. But you go right ahead, sir.
Okay, one of the things that came up in the last meeting, and I mentioned to Norm earlier, I will take on the responsibility of going through and putting a link. Somebody had mentioned that would be a good idea. And that will link all the IC codes, so when you scroll over it, you'll be able to go to what the state code is and see what it actually does say. Won't be guessing what it is. I'm sorry, is the lawyer here?
He is
He's not here.
He is not here.
He had
Okay.
a prior engagement.
Okay, I'll see if I can get hold of him, because one of the questions we had at the time was whether or not that had to be in hard copy attached to the UDO also. That way, if it changed later on, you're not looking at what is the change, you're looking at what you agreed to when you did the UDO.
Right.
So we'll see what the law says on that.
We can get, he's got an email, we can send that information to him directly.
He
Okay,
is on all of your guys' emails. He is.
and his name again?
Dana.
Dana?
Dana Kerr.
Oh, Dan Kerr.
Mr. Gant's running the meeting.
Okay.
Mr. Gant, you got somebody waving at you. back there.
Yes,
Who is the lawyer?
they just said it was Dan Kerr?
Dana.
Dana Kerr, that's right.
Dana Kerr. Kerr,
Thank you.
I believe, right?
Okay. All right, does anybody have any comments regarding E, the UDO Administration Plan Commission? Everybody fine with that?
I do have one question.
Yes.
The state says morals must be in it, in the UDO.
Yes.
So who do we go by, state or county morals?
That's a question I have for the lawyer, because it came up last time, and I sent an email out that said, I pulled up the state code, and the state code specifically references morals.
Yeah, well,
So
somebody
you cannot be less than the state. You can only be more than the state, but you can never be less than the state. So if the state says morals is a requirement, then morals is the requirement. And you can add other verbiage, but you can't remove verbiage that.
Yeah, I couldn't find a really good definition on the state code what morals was.
Yeah, that's
So-
the thing.
That's what we'll find out on that. Okay. Anything else? All right. That takes us down to F. Move faster. The UDO Administration Board Zoning Appeals. Any questions on that? Okay. And based on that, we're now in Chapter 2. Anybody have any comments or questions on general provisions of Chapter 2? Yes,
Before we go further, I do have a question.
yes,
I was reviewing the old zoning laws, comparing them to the new zoning laws. In the old zoning laws, there were additional wording that I thought should have gone into the new one, because the new one was left with very limited definition. So I was just wondering, were we ever going to, or would we consider adding any of that verbiage from the old laws to the new laws?
under the definitions?
No, under, for instance, let me see. If we go back to page 5, which is under G, street and addresses. For B, I'm sorry, for G, under the old one, it was on 19.21. They had 7 policies that they actually underlined under that.
I'm sorry, you're on page 5 of what? Of the
If you go
printout?
back, if you go back from the F,
Of the handout they had last meeting, or the,
yeah, the last committee.
Streets and addresses, number G.
Chapter 1 says general provisions, and you're saying F, protect the character?
No, street and addresses,
G.
G.
Yeah, where it says streets and addresses.
It was, the old laws was guided by 7 policies.
I guess I'm missing something, because G says encourage compatibility between different land uses,
On page 5,
on page 5.
Chapter 1,
chapter 1.
Yeah.
Under UDO administration advisory,
This
You
one.
got the old copy.
so there's been a revised one?
Yes.
Revised new one?
What's the date on yours?
8/26/24?
Yeah, this is 1024.
Ah, that's why. Okay. Well, does the new one have that in there?
So the only thing the place where you talk about streets is on section E. There's something about streets and addresses. The President of Owen County Commissioner shall name and create streets and assign addresses, however this responsibility may be designated to the PC, the administrator, or other departments by ordinance.
The same thing as the old one.
that's the exact same as the
Yeah,
old
it's the same thing.
one. Okay.
But on the, whatever year this old one was,
2003.
yeah, this one, it has 7 policies on there.
So they've updated the policy since then, so that one doesn't reflect any changes in the 20 years.
So the old one doesn't have any new changes on it at all.
No, it's almost.
Is there a new one?
Yeah, I know, because that's what I've been going on.
Yeah. That's
I'll have
one
to
of
get
the-
you copies.
That's one of the big issues is that there is no update to that book.
So is there any way we can get the new updates to add it to whatever we have? I mean, because if we're reviewing it, we're
So
reviewing.
this is what this is doing.
The
This
ta-
is going to replace that.
And the 1024 is on the website.
Yeah,
The one on the website is the 1024.
Okay.
yeah,
I'll make a note of that.
yeah, because there's 2 editions on the website, so that people can see the difference between what the changes were between the first one and the second one.
I'll get that out. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, back to chapter 2 on the zoning and districts, on the overlays. Are there any questions on provision number 1, zoning districts?
Got one here.
Yes.
Where is this zoning map that?
Good question. Do you know where the zoning map is at?
The zoning map can be created at the end.
It should be shown now so we can make the decision.
Yeah, you're putting stuff in, you're
The zoning map only will be altered. They, basically, the first column says the name, and then the abbreviation.
Yeah.
So everything that's already in ag will go into the ag category. Everything that's in residential, be multifamily, they will go into their specific category from this. So if they are single-family residential, they'll go to R1. So,
I think he's talking about the zoning map that's in our comprehensive plan.
yeah, it will.
Yeah, this matches.
We have a map that's in the comprehensive plan.
There is a map that's in the comprehensive plan, but that only changes if someone
Right.
requests that changes, so.
But that would have had to change to be reflective of the different zone letters that are in here.
So,
A lot of those are all in that comprehensive plan map. They
Okay.
have categories different, the map does. Like
So the UDO proposal is on the new map.
so, hold on.
Is this the comprehensive plan?
No, this is the county zoning, this
Okay.
is the county mapping.
And I could be wrong, but I think what you're getting at, and it's something I read also, is you have to have an approved comprehensive plan before you can do the UDO meetings at all.
Start the process, yes.
So that plan should be reflective of whatever these zone abbreviations are.
So the comprehensive plan is what your plan for the next 10 to 20 years.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that that's what it will be right now. So there's an area from the county, I'm trying to think, State Road 43 all the way to the county line. There's a whole section there in the comprehensive plan that is for it to be developed, it could be developed into subdivisions.
Understand?
It is agricultural right now, based on this map here. These are currently what properties are zoned for on
Okay.
the map. So these will stay zoned what they are until someone
Petitions
requests
to change.
a new one. So these, like some of these will be adding the extra, but they will change to the general, like general business will be business to general business. And then if somebody comes in and wants to rezone their property to heavy business, then that's when they can change it to that
Okay.
classification. Same with residential. They'll go from their single-family residential, multifamily, or estate to whatever those 3 are in here. They will be converted to the new, and if you want to change your zoning, you then have to come to the planning commission and request the rezone of your property to that new zoning.
All right, let me see if I can ask my question this way then. Under the current, before we change things, there is an A1 or an A, there is no A2.
There's no, it is
Under the-
agricultural,
And that's it.
and that's it.
Under the new map, is there an A1 and an A2?
They will go under general.
So it's just agricultural A1 right now.
Right now.
And if somebody wants to change their agricultural to an intensive, then they petition and then it would change to the A2.
Yes.
Okay,
That is what I was
Okay.
told, yes.
did I answer your question?
So where could I find this map?
It is on the county website. If you go to, oops, here's the wrong one. If you go to the county website, you go to layers, and go down to zoning. It will highlight and change everything on there.
And that's currently what it is. There's nothing that shows what's proposed with this UDO.
Nothing will change unless someone requests change.
But does it have to be approved if someone requests a
So
zoning
if,
variance?
so a zoning change requires it to come to the planning commission. The planning commission is the advisory. They advise, either give a recommendation, a favorable recommendation, an unfavorable recommendation, or no recommendation. That recommendation then goes to the commissioners. The commissioners are the final determination. If they decide that the planning commission gave a favorable, but they are not gonna give a favorable, then they can do that. That is the two-stage process for zoning.
What is the fee on that?
The fee is $500 because there is a process of, you have to send out letters to everybody, you have to place a sign in the yard, and you have to put it in the newspaper, and there is a lot of clerical work that has to go with that too.
What happens if you get a refund if it's not approved?
They are non-refundable.
That's kind of high for.
That has been it for 20 years.
Ma'am, I don't care what's been in there for 20 years.
That doesn't matter. Well, I mean, it does, but it doesn't, not for this meeting. But what you do, when you come to the commission like that, and you want to rezone, we go through the ordinances and stuff, and so long as it complies to all that, then you would get a favorable recommendation. If there's something that doesn't comply, you would probably know that before you ever paid that $500, or you should know that. And you should be able to make that determination yourself at that time before you actually come here to the meeting.
Thank you, Mike.
You're
You
Yes.
probably want to get the straight answer.
This may be a dumb question, but is the property owner the only one that can request a change? Yeah, I thought someplace in this 100 and some pages, it said that the planning commission could ask for a change.
Haven't read that,
It
so.
did in the last draft.
Yeah.
That was one of the things that.
That's one of the things that was
It
removed.
did get changed in
Yeah.
December.
So that was removed from the draft.
Yeah.
So it's no longer there.
Thank you.
Only-
So my understanding, only the property owner can do that.
Okay. All right, so we're fine with the zoning districts that were set up, A1, A2, whatever they're called. All right. The overlay district, the official zoning map, any questions there? Land uses. No? I like this, it's going fast.
Is this use of development standards, is that what this is? I don't have the paper in front of me.
Land use is listed by the UDO, respective section for each zoning district and overlay district identifies the common land uses that are permitted.
So I have a change as permitted uses, general agriculture district, to add specialty crops as defined by the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
What section is that?
I have chapter 2,
It's 14.
zoning and overlay districts, C, use and development standards, if we're in the right places, it's just my notes. And then permitted uses. General agriculture district, A1. All right.
So are you talking about this little table?
I wrote this about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I see
and
what you mean.
Yeah.
But was it in this little table that you were talking about?
That's left.
might have been looking at the wrong one.
That's a good chance.
Tony,
Yeah,
can I make a comment?
yes,
When I reviewed your email that you sent to the group,
yeah.
you were looking at the August 24 version,
Okay,
and your numbers, letters were different
okay,
between the two versions.
okay.
So,
So is there a section that's for use and development standards? I think that's what you just said.
Development standards, looks like it's on page 15, number 5.
Is there permitted uses?
we haven't got there yet. We haven't got to that section, but we have not gotten to that
When
section.
you get there, wake me up, will you?
Okay.
Okay, we're getting there shortly here. All right, land use is good, development standards,
Hey,
I've got something
that's
on
page
develop-
15, yeah.
Development standards, building height, let me find that. Building height, vertical distance measured, if you go to page 18, it talks about maximum height of structure, single family, two family residential, 30 feet, non-residential, 40 feet. I disagree with that. I think we should be allowed to build as high as we want. As an amateur architect, I built my own house, it's currently 26 feet, I've got rough plans for what we'll call a modern Victorian, and I just don't see it necessary for the county to tell me how tall I can build that structure. I'd be okay to agree to change the single family unit to 40 feet. I think it shouldn't have a height restriction on what someone's capable of building, but I'd be more satisfied with 40 feet than 30 feet.
Okay, let me circle that, and we'll be back to it in just a second then.
That might be something with the fire department, with fire code too, that anything over 32 foot, typically you have issues with getting water up there.
I can see that as a concern. I'm a volunteer of the Owen Fire Department, and I'm a risk taker if it
Yeah.
catches on fire.
Yeah.
But I still think I should be allowed to build it.
I work for a sprinkler company, and anything over 32 foot, we have to put standpipes in just so.
But then why would a non-residential building be allowed to be 40 feet in? If it can't get water out there, it can't get water out there, so just, I would like that changed, so.
All right, we'll come to it in just a minute here. All right, so we're at 4 land uses, 5 development standards. B is zoning districts.
Got a question? or
Yes.
On page 16, if
Yes.
you're flying through this record, quickly, under general agricultural district A1A, it says, general agricultural district to provide, protect substantial areas for broad variety.
I'm sorry, are you on the
A.
1024?
I'm on 1024, yes.
She is, but her page number is different.
Page 16, it says.
You're looking, that's page 15. I don't know how your numbers are off, but that's page 15.
I just caught, this is the thing that y'all gave me at the last meeting.
Yeah, I don't understand what happened,
We
but
didn't
look
all
at,
have the same paperwork. We all have different pages. This is ridiculous.
okay, so that's page 15 on what we're looking at. This is
Okay.
16, so you're
Well,
good, you got the right, I don't know
So
what happened.
general
Why don't we all
agriculture,
have the same paperwork?
general agricultural district A1A.
Yes.
Where in the third line,
Yes.
where it says or is planned to occur, that's kind of hard to determine. And it's very, it's kind of ambiguous, so I would just strike that whole or is planned to occur.
General districts provide 4. All right, it says, A1, general agriculture district is to provide for and protect substantial areas for broad variety of agricultural uses where little or no urbanization has occurred or is planned to occur. But I'm assuming the plan to occur is what's on the map?
Could be.
It's ambiguous, it doesn't say whose plan.
Well, that's what I'm asking. Is the one that says plan to occur?
Plan to occur is if there's like future development.
So you have something on the map that says, well, this area is, we're planning to do that?
No, the comprehensive plan is the only plan, but someone could come in and buy an agricultural piece of property and change the use. Decide to rezone it and change the use, so
Well, then that would be has occurred, not planned.
We'll have to.
She's correct.
They have to plan to it, to do it, because they can't just do it.
We have you cannot plan to occur something
Right.
out there that McDonald's is right down here down the street. Nobody will sit there and say they plan to put a cornfield there 10 years from now. So I mean, that would be like when you redistrict it, rezone it to agricultural, rip the parking lot and the building out.
Strike that piece out.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
There's a lot of places, I mean, they buy things and they've planned to put something in there 10 years from now. You take a look at AutoZone, they had that lot sitting down there for years before they ever actually put something on it. But it was planned to occur.
How about if it said something like, or has been approved for future utilization? Would that take care of that, your concern on that? I understand what they're saying. They're saying somebody may do something later on, they want to rezone it, so they're planning to utilize it in the part of the rezoning. And this would say, this is what their job is and this purpose of it is.
As in it's already been.
Well, no, it's like, right now it's agricultural A1, and somebody else buys it, asks for a rezoning to A2, they're planning to do something at that point, when they get the approval done. So that's where it says plan to occur. I'm just saying, just change this wording a little bit, for future, or has been future approved.
Is not up for, I don't have the right words, but up for approval or something like that. Something that's already set in motion, I understand.
Yeah.
But if it's not already been set in motion and before, then I think it's just up to whoever happens to be, yeah.
I think take it out. If you read it, it just depends on how you read it, because I could read it as there's no urbanization that has occurred or is planned to occur, as in we're not planning to do anything out there. So that could potentially hurt the places in the comprehensive plan that they have future zoning for subdivision if somebody wanted to rezone it.
Well, let's do this. Anybody have a reason to keep it? Take it out. Easy enough.
So you're gonna take out what?
Or has planned to occur. Third line.
Okay.
Okay, that puts us on page 17, this little chart. Anybody have any questions on permitted uses chart? Well, I have one I can think of. I'm sorry?
Zoom that page in, so it's not a whole lot of light around it.
Oh, you can't read it at all.
There we go.
All right. When
Agriculture uses there is what I was talking about earlier. If we could add in specialty crops as defined by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Because essentially, grapes don't fall under row crops.
No, leave it as hay.
Either do wood melons or anything else, so yeah.
So you want to add,
Watermelon or
or specialty crops that are approved by,
specialty crops that are defined by the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
okay.
Not
And let's see. Agricultural uses, accessories. It's got home-based businesses on there.
Shouldn't churches be under institutional? Just looking, that's what this zone.
Yeah.
I think it's the same, don't look at that.
So churches usually go under institutional public, which is a different category completely.
Yeah, I was actually surprised when I saw cemetery under Ag 1. But see, I got one on the farm, so. Okay. You had sent an email out regarding agritourism.
Correct, yeah.
It looks like that's under the special exception rules, recreational uses. Is your main concern in the definitions?
You know, I don't have the latest copy, so what I was looking at probably doesn't even apply to what you guys are doing right now. You know, my biggest concern from this point forward is listing wineries, breweries, and distilleries as being illegal in the county, and that just needs to be struck out. I don't know where it's at in this document, but that needs to be removed.
Okay.
It's hard enough, let alone
sorry?
the
I know where he's
state
talking about.
laws and the federal laws,
Right.
let alone applying some more
Okay.
garbage on top of it.
All right.
But that's it for me.
My reference person saying it's coming up later.
All right, John, you got me.
Yep.
There is no good definition that I could see for farm worker housing.
Okay.
Well, every place else in here, there's things like sizes. And I did find something, and it's somewhere in here, I'm not sure where we'll come up on it. It talks about, I don't know what the wording is, auxiliary house or secondary house type of thing. And it was really weird because it was, let's say your house is 1,000 square feet, then your auxiliary house can be no larger than 50% of the size of what the primary house is. So if you wanted a bigger house on your property, you would have to build something twice the size of your primary house in order for it to become the secondary house and have a new primary house.
Wow.
I mentioned that because a lot of people who have larger farms are building mother-in-law places.
That's
old-
what ADU
yeah.
is.
You're
And,
talking about the accessory dwelling units?
well, it falls under, yes, accessory, that's just,
Okay,
yes.
accessory dwelling units are supposed to be for smaller homes on the property that can be configured to stay within the same kind of area as the regular house,
Uh-huh.
so that they're hooked to the same septic system and all of that, so they're not having to add additional septic systems and things like that. That's kind of the accessory dwelling unit, is to have a mother-in-law suite right there behind the house.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, but I can tell you, somebody that has a couple hundred acres, I don't want my mother-in-law that close. I'm building all septic tank.
It's kind of one of those things, is to not subdivide a property, an agricultural piece of property.
Yeah, but you literally-
Whole housing.
You literally are forcing someone to do that then, because initially when I was looking at it, the one thing I saw was, okay, if I'm going, well, for example, I built my brother-in-law a place to stay. He was like 80 years old, and he needed a place to stay versus the little shed he was staying in. I can't believe that. And so I built him a place. And it would not, under the UDO, it would not conform to the standards, because it is not of the square footage for a house. It is not, it exceeds 50% of the square footage of our place. So it's too big, too small, and it's on its own septic. So my only option at that point is to subdivide the property.
Well, and there is certain cases where the property, let's say you have a residential, single-family property.
But it's not, it's
No,
A1.
I'm just saying, if you had a single-family property that is one house per
Yeah.
acre, you only have 1 acre, but you want to add an accessory dwelling unit, in those cases, that's why that's there, so then you can hook everything together, so you're not having to try to split it.
Okay,
You
so
can't go any smaller.
is there a place in here that allows you to put a second house on a piece of property, that's 100 acres, let's say, that's not attached to the same septic, not attached to the same well, but is on the same property,
There is.
and what's it fall under?
It is under special exceptions.
Page 77 has the details of that accessory dwelling unit.
Yeah, it's, if you go down to.
Don't go that far.
Page 17, you go down to the, down here into special exceptions, it says residential uses. There is special exceptions, which would be a variance. You would request a variance to add a second dwelling unit. So your first house would be a, you know,
Okay, where do you see special exceptions on here?
special exceptions,
I mean, that's under the title up here, okay?
Right.
So a single-family house,
that'd just be a variance. You would request a variance to add the house.
But that's not A1, that's an R.
no, it's A1.
That is A1. The screen above here is A1. This is the classification.
So for,
The variance. You have to
so for example, if you wanted to put 15 of these houses out there, you have more than enough land, then you would just ask for a variance for each one of them?
So there is a minimum square footage, or minimum acreage on the second page, the next page.
Yeah.
So you have to have a minimum of 2 acres per house.
Well, I understand that. That's what I'm getting at. The fact that, for
Yeah.
example, if I've got 200 acres, according to that, I could put 100 houses out there. So you're saying for the 99 other houses I put out there, I would just have to come to the planning board and ask for a variance?
I thought after the fourth one, then you become a subdivision.
Yeah, somewhere
Yeah,
in here.
there
it
is
says
if you do too many, yeah, you would have to come and ask for a subdivision to be
Okay.
subdivided into. And then you have to get a survey and all of that to subdivide the property into multiple.
I'm just trying to get out of people running into problems when they're wanting to move their family on their property.
Yeah, and so a lot of this is to preserve agricultural, to not have people building 20 houses on a piece of property and then subdividing it later.
Okay? No, I can understand that.
You know,
I'm kind of, I get my wife talking in my back of my head over here. She's one of 10 kids that own the farm, all right? So theoretically, all 10 of them could go out there and build a house on the farm, all right? No, they could, they
The
just,
way it's written here.
you would have to have a special except, you have a special variance.
But when you, yeah, so the ADU, the accessory dwelling unit, it was only one per parcel.
Yeah,
So you
I saw
have the
that.
main house and then you can have that house. But then if you're sectioning property off, are you feeding?
Well, you wouldn't know because they all own the property.
They all own the property.
They're all owners in name.
Property owners can divide their property or have as many people as they want living on it, as long as they're not burning each other down. This is getting way out of hand by you
I'm sorry?
people trying to tell people how to live.
So currently, you can, in the current ordinance, you can put 1 house per 5 acres. If you have that much acreage,
Yeah.
you could do 1 house per 5 acres, currently.
Now, my husband and I did for my sister-in-law.
But that's with everyone
Years
having a
ago.
septic or.
That's everyone having a septic system.
Which is what we have right now.
That's having, yeah.
Yeah, we got a second home for my sister-in-law.
Yeah.
Okay. The only thing everybody doesn't have their own of on this property right now is a well, because the well more than provides enough water for everybody. And that's just extra
Okay, well,
pumps.
going back to your original question.
Yes.
You said, I remember reading something in here as well, and I don't have the correct paperwork as what they have, but it had said, your original question, that, you couldn't build. like,
Yeah, it was dealt with sizing.
Bigger than your home.
Yeah, the accessory housing can be at max 50% of the size of your primary house.
And it was accessory uses, so like barn equipment repair, well, that would be typically out of a barn, right? Well, like our barn is bigger than our house.
We're talking dwelling units.
Yeah, that'd be-
It says not,
Not
no structure.
Well, I was just looking under the A1 accessory uses. And I seen that barn was the first one, and accessory dwelling units was the second one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
But I
doesn't
remember
count on
reading
barns and.
your original question, is that just on dwelling though?
Yeah,
Okay.
That's so you can, like she was talking, keep on the same septic and not have to split it.
okay. I'm just, and we'll get to it with the sizes and stuff, the accessory size, because I have some questions on that. Now we're on page 18, which deals with your 40-foot high question.
I got a question back on the exemption.
Yes.
Special exemption uses. Would we be able to take kennel out of commercial use and split it into two sections? A commercial kennel for permitted commercial uses as defined by the state, and then in, let's say, agricultural uses, hobby breeder as defined by the state, because there is a definition for that as well. And the way that it's defined in this is very, it's terrible. It pretty much limits what you can do as a hobby breeder. You can't even sell your animals, or you'll be listed into a commercial kennel. But you have to have so many dogs, almost 20 dogs, to actually be able to get a license. That's
For a commercial license?
Yes.
So if you have 5 dogs and you sell them, you're a hobby
Yeah,
person?
well, so you can have less than 19 unaltered females and still be a hobby breeder in Indiana. And then once you cross that, it goes into commercial. But the way that they're trying to define it in this is if you sell any, then you're going to be in the commercial, but you're not going to be able to get the state licensing because you don't have that many dogs.
That's what you're saying. Where would you suggest that we,
So you want to keep them under special exceptions?
No.
Or move them to the other
So,
section?
Kennel, you can put like what you guys did with the veterinary clinic. So like a commercial kennel could be commercial use. And then you could do hobby breeder, so that people that are, breeding their pets out of their home to maybe keep one back.
so you're saying under the permitted uses?
Yeah. So like hobby breeder is defined by the state or agriculture.
Yeah, that sounds
So
good.
you wanted it, are you suggesting it be under permitted uses or
Yeah.
special exception?
Permitted, so take it out of special and put it in the permitted.
Well, you wouldn't have to take it out because you had commercial uses would still be under the,
For commercial.
commercial kennel would still be under the special exception. And then the hobby kennel would be under the permitted uses
For commercial?
per hobby.
Okay, so it'd be under what?
There'd be 2 sections, one commercial down in special exceptions and hobby up in permitted uses.
Right, and then put like the hobby under agricultural, since it's not considered commercial under the Indiana code.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Or just put non-commercial, just put a category that says non-commercial uses.
Accessory uses.
Yeah, that's right, yeah, we got an area. So under accessory uses, hobby kennel, as defined by the state.
I got a question.
Yes,
On the farm, you got small hobby farms as well versus commercial. That's gotta be separated as well. Take 4-H'ers and small farmers. It's gotta be separate because they are not at commercial grade.
where do we have commercial farming here?
Well, it's
We have both
agriculture.
on here. We have non-commercial livestock and then livestock that doesn't require IDM permit.
The IDM, right.
You have to have a permit. And then special exceptions for when you get into the bigger stuff. I think the 4 acres would fall under like the non-commercial one.
But that,
You have to have.
They still have to have a number for
Yeah.
4-H.
Do you have to have an IDEN number?
Yeah,
Clarified.
otherwise they can't even sell them at the end of their project.
Quite interesting.
There's a second stuff or something, they need to be able to find what piece of property it came from.
Why would we then even have the not requiring ID and permit statement in there?
Well,
Just strike the whole thing.
Well, you leave the livestock production, but
Yeah,
just strike not required. All right, so not requiring the ID and thing comes out. That's all your issue? Okay.
I have another question under agricultural use.
Yes.
Shouldn't we have a category for hay? A lot of people raise hay, they don't have any livestock.
I agree, because I got hay.
Specialty crop,
Special.
yeah. Versus row crop.
I don't have that on my copy here. It says special.
You have something that says specialty crop somewhere?
well,
Hey,
do we,
You're suggesting making one.
well, it's like the grapes, it should be as a,
It's not a row crop, it's a specialty.
That's what you're saying, make a category that says specialty crop on it.
Yeah.
That's what he requested. That's what his request.
Okay.
What do they define as?
There's a whole list, you know,
I just
everything from
wondered- I wondered
watermelon
what-
to
I wondered what-
raspberries, I mean, it's a whole lot of, you know.
I just wondered if his hay was on there.
I'm not sure.
I think
If
it's
you got an internet connection there, my phone just went dead, look it
Right,
up.
right.
specific types of hay.
So you're saying an act of God by growing certain vegetables and fruits and stuff will no longer be by the act of God, it'd be by man control.
Get your watermelons in a row.
Well, I'll tell you what, I made it before and I'll say it again. We need to abolish this and get, because you're not going anywhere with it. And now then I want to ask everybody on the committee. We'd like to have your names and addresses where you live, where we can inspect your properties just as well. Since you're so dead set on this zoning and ordinance, I want to see if you're in compliance with the ones in current.
We're not dead set on
Yeah.
anything. This
Well,
is dropped in our lap.
Let me ask you this.
I'm hoping this gets shot down.
Are you in favor of the UDO?
No,
Please
not as,
answer.
not as currently written, no.
Are you in favor of any type of zoning in the county?
Am I in favor of any type of zoning?
Any type of zoning?
Yes,
Make
I
yourself
am.
known. What type of zoning are you in favor of?
I don't want to have a pig farm next to me if I don't have one right now.
You eat pork?
I said, if I have one right now.
Do you-
You asked me what I wanted to have.
Do you eat pork?
Yes.
Do you eat chicken?
Yes,
Where do you think they're raised at?
that's perfectly fine. If you have a pig farm over there, I can knock them over there.
You want to take lifestyle away from other people?
No.
To suit yourself?
I want to make sure that what I have to protect is protected.
It is protected. There's state laws that are also on the books that you're avoiding. You need to get with the
So,
program and look at the state laws
you-
and get that attorney in here and have him to explain it to you.
Yeah. You understand I just got here, right?
The meeting you're looking for is tomorrow.
Oh, I'll be here.
That's the ones that can kill it off. We can't do anything with it. It's in our
Please
lives.
be advised, I'm in coordination,
That's fine.
coordinates with WTA News to come in here with it too.
That's fine.
And we need to have a little bit of more.
What I'm hoping for is that if we get stuck with this, we get something we can live with. If we don't get stuck with it, I'm perfectly happy.
Well, now, the two commissioners that got elected said they were against it.
Yeah, and if they vote it down, then I'm perfectly happy with that. And I think most people up here are. But if they don't, which happens in politics sometimes, then I want to have something that we
We
like.
should hold them accountable.
Yeah, but that's voting in, voting out. If we have to have something we have to live with, I would prefer that we have some input into it before it gets that way. That's all I'm saying.
It's a big joke, you keep on laughing.
No, I'm the nice
Keep on
individual.
laughing, is it a big joke to you?
The situation is yes.
I think what is a joke is that we're here to discuss changes and things that we can live with.
Yeah.
If you want it shut down, go to the meeting tomorrow. I agree. I don't want it. I don't think anybody in here wants this. That's why we're all here to try to negotiate what's going to be
Okay,
beneficial.
the
moving
changes you're
forward.
wanting to make is if they agree on the changes you want to make. They don't have to agree to them.
That's correct.
That's good.
So
They
the
don't agree to anything.
the
We
stuff
gotta hold them accountable.
the
That's
stuff
what
you're
we're
wanting them to change, add this, add that, take this, take that, they don't have to abide by
Okay,
it.
please write, cancel it all on top of the page. We'll send that to them. That's our hope. But if not, they've got 283
Abolish
pages.
the thing and get it over with.
And that's what I think everybody is actually hoping for. But if it doesn't happen, we'd like to have something we can live with. That's
I
all.
think there's compromise to be made. There's going to
Yeah.
be zones, I agree. I mean, this is a model.
You know, there's 12 counties around us that are not required to be zoned by the state of Indiana.
Yes, and I looked at property
You
in
do
Green
not have to
County, and
be
I didn't
zoned.
find there. So, can we?
Okay.
That's what I had to say.
So-
Thank you very much.
So, no, I'm sorry, question, yes.
Did we get this guy right here? Sir, did we get you?
Somebody else had a
Did
question?
we get you? You had your hand up and then,
See, about adding hay to these agricultural uses, and then someone said specialty crops includes hay.
So,
Does it really?
so should we have a list of specialty crops so that?
We need to put a category for specialty crop and then find out what the state allows for that.
fine, so everybody knows.
List of specialty crops,
Yes.
so then.
Is it on the USDA?
You do it, you got internet, do a search on it right there.
And
My phone's
you
dead.
could possibly link it to whatever,
Just link it to.
link it to the page that he's talking about, so then anybody who's looking for it can go straight to that, because they will
Right. That'd
update
be
that.
the deal.
That's the
Yep.
live version.
Yeah, they will update it, and so as it updates, then you won't have to change the code if you
Yep.
list just
It's
so
an
many.
exhaustive list.
And that's, one of the things I talked to them is that I've taken on
Sorry about that.
the responsibility of putting the live links on this thing once we get it written. I'll go through and find all the codes and all the things we want to link to, then I'll link it back to whatever the state code says it is.
We'll try to see if hay is on there real
Yeah.
quick, just so we know.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
If we're going to add that category with
Yes,
the specialty crop, will there be regulations against those specialty crops? Like, how many can you have, how
No.
yardage, just the
No,
name of the
it would be
specialty?
Specialty crops.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what it would be.
and you, sir?
Are we looking at this from the things that could or couldn't be accepted? And shouldn't we be looking the other way? Which means we should only be listing the things under agricultural or residential that are not permitted. In other words, it could say, well, exception for this, a special exception for that, and that falls under A1, A2, and R2 and R1, subdivision E. Should we just say, you can't do this, and this is not allowed? No, you can't have, a weed farm, and you can't have a place that only raises elephants, you know, or just put the things that you can't do, rather than trying to make all the exceptions for all the various types of reasons why people buy land.
You probably could. I'd be more concerned with the fact that if you say you can't do something, the minute you do that, there'll be something on there that you didn't add. That some guy say, I can put that there because he didn't say I couldn't have a weed farm.
Well, my point is, what you just said is the true part, because it's true, because anything that we write in here or do, right,
Yeah.
can be changed. The same as if we did it on the negative rather than the positive. And so, it just bugs me about, every time somebody comes up with a great farm and they want to do doggies, or maybe somebody wants to raise hay, there's always some kind of exception, you know, to do, and we're writing down all these exceptions, you know, right? You've missed the point of the things that you're really not good for the people, and really not good for society, it's not good for your neighbors, that's what we need to stick to. Rather than all the things that are the exception.
It's a valid point. If we could come up with a set of exceptions on
Yeah.
crops, then yeah.
Because there's just too many people got too many different ideas of what to do with their land.
Yeah.
That's the killer here.
So, just so everybody knows, hay is listed under a list of ineligible commodities.
Ineligible?
Ineligible commodities.
What does that mean?
What is that?
Buckwheat, alfalfa, peanuts, popcorn, all that. There's a whole list of them here, and hay's under there.
They
Eggs,
sell
orange.
they sell them all the time.
Ineligible for what?
It just says a list of ineligible commodities.
That doesn't make
That don't make sense, especially for farmers and 4-H'ers.
I think that one is something you probably should
Yeah.
look more into.
Yeah, we're gonna have to dig a little deeper and find out.
Yeah.
Because,
We can just put hay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, if it comes down to it, you just can list it as one of the special crops, if.
I mean, that's a lot of people
Right.
who grow hay.
Yeah.
Right.
And we're glad they do. We have animals that eat it.
Yep.
See what their definition.
Yeah. It just, I mean, there's
Yes, ma'am.
probably 40 things on there under that heading.
I'm Leslie Lennon, I'm a farmer in the county.
Yes.
And eligible, in USDA, eligible and eligible don't mean like allowed or not allowed
Okay.
at all. It's nothing to do with that. So for example, rabbits aren't on the list of Right, so it's a more technical question than I think what we're getting to. It's not about disallowing them. And I had sent some edits to Suzanne and to Bill earlier, and I don't know if any of those have got discussed, but.
No, and I didn't, when you sent them, I hadn't had time to.
No, I
read
totally
those.
understand. And,
But
my-
we can pass those to everybody in the committee, because they did cover several of these things.
Okay.
Well, the only emails I have gotten is from you about the meeting, nothing else.
Right. Yeah, I was following the instructions about where to send edits to, but I did want to raise the question of, under permitted uses, production of value-added products. I wanted to raise the inclusion under commercial of farm-to-table enterprises that would include a blanket term for wineries, restaurants, cafes that use farm products. And then I would ask that agritourism be moved to to permitted uses as a regular part of what farms do, especially like small farms.
Chief's looking over that over there.
Can you get with Mr. Gant and
Yeah.
I'll send it.
can you send it to him?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll send
That
it.
way we got everything in one document, because this thing's gonna grow bigger than we can corral if we're not careful.
I did have a question that you may have already covered, which is, why are the AFOs even under this category at all, when that is, the difference between A1 and A2 is essentially confined operations and kind of more industrial? It seems to me appropriate to strike it from the general agricultural district A1, since that possibility is covered under intensive agricultural district A2. Very much thinking about your comment about, do we want a confined operation next to every residential farm or every small farm?
You're thinking it'd be better if it was in the A2 listing of
Well,
intensive?
that is what A2 is more intensive agricultural uses, so why have that here in this category?
I'll go to anybody else. I don't know small versus large feedlots.
That's where you're gonna be, I think when you get into the combined is where you're gonna be more of the Ag 2. There's so many people in Ag 1 that are already doing feeding operations on a smaller scale.
Yeah.
So if you take that out, you're probably gonna have a lot of people freaking out.
So how would you describe scale then? Because there's no.
Maybe that's where you have to look at the definitions, and I don't know if it's defined in here or not.
I don't think so.
That might be something to look at with the USDA, where they define that.
I'll put that for something for me to look at.
Question.
Yeah, it's not listed in definitions.
Something to consider, in my mind, is the special exception uses doesn't mean that you can do it, right? That means you have to go before the planning commission to ask to do it.
Right.
And if it's allowed in here, then in theory, someone could have it Act 1, go to the board, and have an AFO within the Ag 1.
Yes. They would, and the board would have to have a very substantial reason not to allow them to have it. If it says you can do it, then you have to have a reason not to allow them to do it.
Well, currently, nobody is even zoned for Ag 2, so
Right.
that would be
Yes.
a time when someone comes in and says, hey, I want to do this, we'd be like, okay, you need to rezone to Ag 2.
Yeah.
which
Let me
Ag 2
see if I can
is
find-
By Ag 1, so.
Let me see if I can find something in the state that has a scale size, like you have 20 cows and, you can, that's a small scale, you have 21, it's large scale,
Well, that's probably going to be broken down by the size of the land that you have.
and per acre. I know in the subdivision that I sat on the board for down in Texas, we had a lot of 5 and 10 acre pieces of property in there, and we had like the number of animals they could have on each thing. Now, we had no feedlots in the place, but, I saw guys having 20 horses on 5 acres. People get crazy. All right, is there anything else on page 17?
Yep.
Yes.
Right after feeding the animals, I'm talking about feeding ourselves. I see the meat processing. Shouldn't it be more like a meat processing plant? I mean, why can't you process your own food? I kill a lot of rabbit, and, you know, the boys do squirrel. I mean, why can't,
Should we maybe add commercial?
well, I'm not gonna age my own beef, but if I wanted to age my own beef, I would do my own beef, you know? If I had the facility to utilize to do my own beef.
I guess I'm missing what your question is.
Maybe
Well,
move
on
meat
here, why should I
processing.
have to come to the county and ask for a special exemption to kill my own animals
Right.
for my own food?
I'm not sure that you do, as long as you're not selling it.
Well, it
I know
says
it
on
says
here
meat
meat
processing.
processing. It doesn't say for commercial use.
That's
Yeah,
true.
you just need to add commercial in front of meat processing, commercial meat processing.
The same
Well-
thing
Yeah,
for
well, just,
I'm not selling the meat.
But what I would propose is that that would go under
Put it under
value-added production that should be allowed on your farm. So for example, in Indiana, it is perfectly legal for you to sell 1,000 processed rabbits or chickens a year from your farm. You have that right. And so, right, I think that should be put up as a standard use. So I'm agreeing with you, but I think it should fall under value-added production. That should be a regular part of agricultural practices.
I think the biggest thing with meat processing is you're selling, just not to your friends or something, but to like a restaurant or something, they have to be USDA inspected.
Right, but there's already laws about that.
I think if you just add commercial meat processing under the special exceptions, it'll clear it up.
I think.
But I don't think that you should have to ask permission for something that you're allowed to do.
No, for
You-
commercial use.
But it is
Like
commercial. You
somebody
can-
doing rices
Yeah.
or vendors. you
No,
know, that kind of
but you're
processing.
selling chickens that you've raised is commercial. It's a commercial activity.
is it a home-based business?
But that's where you're.
If it is, then that's already
value-added
covered.
Production, correct?
Well, I would just have a general category, which was value-added production.
Yeah,
And
I
then-
agree, I
and
think
then-
that's fine,
And
as long
then,
as you're.
that would be covered under there, but I think people should be allowed to if they want to make a little money off their homestead. We shouldn't prohibit that, it's not prohibited, it's allowed by the state.
I'm being very liberal in this wording, but to me, that's a home-based business, that's already covered. If you're not commercial, you're home-based.
Right.
It's one or the other. You're either non-commercial or you're commercial. If you're not commercial, then you're home-based. If you're home-based, you're already covered under the top part of saying you're permitted, which you don't have to go to get a permit for, exception for.
I think that's too general the use of the term home-based business without a clear definition of its limits, because you could argue that all of these are home-based businesses. You have a farm.
I'm not sure the legalities of it, but it does raise some questions. What if I go shoot a deer, I want to process it in my barn? I'm not selling it, I'm going to put it in the freezer and eat it.
Yeah, you're not meat processing as far as I'm concerned.
Thought of this until now, but meat processing is just, for me, it's simple as I can go to the store, buy it, cut it up, I can go kill it, cut it up. I mean, it doesn't matter.
And you could go
If
get.
this pertains to business, I get it. If you're gonna sell it, you need USDA approval. I don't know the legalities of what we're talking about here, so I'm curious about that going forward, I guess.
Yeah, if, take it to the simplest thing, you went out and shot a rabbit and you skinned it, you're not meat processing
Right.
as a commercial business. You're not meat processing as a home-based business, you're selling stuff.
I'm not sure.
Les, educate me here, I'm still trying to catch up with what you're saying. So you're saying today, at a state level, a farm, a home-based farm that has chickens, you can kill chickens or ducks, and you can sell them commercially. How many?
1,000 a year.
1,000 a year, and that's in Indiana code today.
Yes, and you can process them yourself, and you can sell them. You can even sell them off your farm if they're frozen, or you can sell them as fresh meat if people come to your farm. So it's wonderful. Other states don't have this, but it should be.
But this is unique to Indiana, because this is what we do in Indiana.
Yeah, well, I mean, other states may have it, but we are particularly fortunate. We certainly wouldn't want to limit that, right, that people in Indiana have to raise birds commercially. It is true that if you want to sell retail or to a restaurant, you have to be state inspected. But not with, there's an exception
for rabbits and chicken.
But you can sell to another family.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, rabbits, yeah, and then you can. Chickens, yeah.
Well, no cattle.
Yeah, that's
So-
what I asked. Cattle.
No, those sheep, right, the other animals have to be inspected, processed, and sold.
Yeah.
But if you're not selling it, you can.
You can sell your cow to someone else and they can go and take it and get it butchered.
Do what?
You can't butcher a cow and sell the meat. You can sell your cow to someone and they can take it to a
I
butcher.
just want to butcher my meat and eat it. I don't want to
Yeah.
sell it.
Right,
I
that's-
think we're good. I think
That's
we're
right,
good
you're
on
fine.
that. Okay, that's what I thought.
But yeah, if you go, say you take a cow to Rice's or something, and you get all the meat back, you're legally not allowed to sell that.
Okay.
Because Rice is asking when you turn it in, is this for resale or not? And if so, it has to be inspected by USDA.
Right.
If not, you get it a little bit cheaper and you get your own meat back.
So I'm stuck, where are we putting meat processing in?
Yes, I was gonna say, are we gonna add commercial or not?
Actual commercial meat processing should be under a special exception, I would think.
Okay,
But I agree, value-added production or a home-based business should stay under permitted uses. And that value-added production is very vague in that, but I would never think meat processing and think I'm not allowed to kill my own chickens.
Well, that's how I read it.
I know, but I'm just like, and that's why everybody reads things different, that's why the meetings and.
Just imagine if it's somebody from the city,
That's
never
right.
even done anything
Yeah.
like that.
Oh my goodness, I've seen them. Get some eggs out of coop.
That's our
They give
argument.
us
Correct me if I'm
the
wrong, but
chickens.
if Indiana allows it, there ain't anything we can do about it anyway.
If it's in Indiana code, then we have
If
to.
Indiana
notify.
allows you to sell 1,000.
no, because you can be stricter than what the Indiana code is, you can't be less.
Well, we would be more, if we said 500, we would be more strict than Indiana.
Yes,
Right?
so you could restrict it down to, you could
We
have
need to-
two.
It sounds like we need to leave it alone, however, we need to
Just
put it in there.
make a nod to that at the Indiana code, just say reference
Now,
Indiana.
reference
code.
Indiana code.
Yeah,
And-
so put value added
Right, and.
A category value
Is
added
that right?
Put your link in there to that
Yeah.
code, and then everybody's good.
per Indiana
Whatever
code.
Indiana accepts. I like the value added though, where,
Yeah.
as well, that more verbiage is not gonna hurt anything. It's clear for everyone, everybody's on the same page.
Yep. Anything else, page 17? Oh, page 18. Now we're at your height thing. The maximum height of a structure. Now, I'm actually, on a house, you're looking at, it says 30 feet for residential.
Right.
It's not very much.
You're
It's-
It's
assuming,
tall enough for typical houses.
But it's not like the old style.
Right, old attics and stuff, I mean,
If you're thinking like, hey, I want a like Victorian style house that's 3 stories and you've got 14-foot ceilings
right.
between the floors and the.
Indiana building code is 35 feet. Cannot exceed 35 feet in a residential building code.
That's in the building code, I'd say we move
So
that to
if you
35
want to move it to
feet.
35 feet, that is the
Yeah.
max in the building.
Put it at
code.
35 then.
Yeah.
But it is a fire code.
Because I'm looking at, if you have a 10, 12 pitch on your house,
and your peak's gonna be closed.
yeah, it's going to get up there real fast.
Story.
Even on two 10-foot houses with a 10, 12 peaks on top of it.
So
Your house-
35 is the state code you said?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
says, the mean of the roof height of a building cannot exceed 35 feet. Number of stories, a building cannot be more than 2 stories above ground.
I'm sorry, did you say the mean height?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's great then. It means you can
That's
have.
the peak of the roof, is
Right,
35.
but mean means that you can have a 50-foot peak and then you can have a,
Wait, you realize that 35 is to the peak?
Yes.
yeah, but it's a mean, it's not the whole house. So if you have more.
At the very top of the roof, the peak of the house can only exceed, it can only go up to 35 feet,
I find that.
and that's 2 stories.
She getting stuck on the word mean.
Yeah, I mean, that is in the residential building code.
Does it say mean on that?
Says mean roof
means you can have multiple heights on them.
MEAN or MAIN?
MEAN.
Yeah, that would mean the
Average.
average.
35 feet.
That does mean the average. She's right, that means you could have a 50-foot peak and then have a 25-foot peak, and the average is,
Yeah, you're fine. Right, yeah.
But it, I mean, it just says it cannot exceed 35 feet.
so the mean cannot exceed 35 feet,
Different.
or the max height of any point can't exceed 35 feet.
Would that be from the ground or from the foundation?
It says 2 stories above ground. So,
Two different roof heights and you got average, and that's
Yeah.
what you're saying. You got 150.
Is there a code reference?
Yeah, 150.
Yeah,
150.
I have to read the code. I understand what you're saying, but I have to read the code too, because she's correct in the fact that if you have a standard house that has one peak in it, and that peak is 50 feet up, and then you have dormers that have peaks on them that are 20 feet up, your mean's gonna be less than 35 feet.
I think the way you think.
I would just put 35, because you're already
Yeah.
at 30 on here.
Yeah.
35 would just,
I just ask that we match the state, that we don't.
Yeah, so, yeah, 35 sounds fine.
To exceed state requirements.
The only question here is that does the person that lives next door to you, if their house is so big, my house is always in shade and I can't see anything.
That's
In
another.
other words, if you live if you live like out where I live, you know, in the middle of 15 acres, if I have a 5-story house, there's nobody to see me.
but
And I don't
no,
bother
this is
anybody.
building code.
For
This
what?
is this is Indiana residential building codes. So this is what the state has said, these building codes are for, you know, they bring in fire codes and all of that to make sure that if you're building a house, it's safe for if there's a fire. You don't want somebody 5 stories above the ground and not be able to get down out of the house.
Sounds like a shit
So what
responsibility,
is,
but I don't
do
like
you
that.
have all the state restrictions on that?
Yeah.
On
I'm sorry?
the minimum and the primary, I mean, the non-residential, what does state say on non-residential?
I just looked up residential.
Okay, well,
Yeah, I mean, we can look up
well, on the
non-residential.
residential even, did it have did we ever change the square footage? Or is that still?
We haven't got there yet.
It did get changed.
It did?
Is there an appetite to agree that we will go by the state standards and exact language for all of these measurements and we won't be more restrictive? Because if there is, then we don't have to go through each one below by below.
That's true.
I agree.
But I would emphasize the same, because mean is very different than not. So
Yeah.
that we are gonna adopt the state minimums and maximums, using the exact language. That's the proposal.
The odds are you're probably correct, that's what we'll probably will end up doing.
Rather than make the best.
Yeah,
And then you can just link that right in the document.
yep.
No reason to rewrite.
No, I mean, if the state's gonna give you a code that says you could go 50 feet, why would you say I could only go 25 and 10? Yeah.
I have a
Yes.
question. If we're going to adopt Indiana code, are we going to be changing what we have to Indiana code, or we're just going to say per Indiana code and leave it alone? I mean, what are we going to do? There's so many of them that we have to change. There's like,
On the things that are subject to change that we say we will go by the state code, the link that I'll put in would then allow the state code to change, and when you click on it, you will see what the new state code is.
so all of this,
Versus us having to go back in and change whatever we put in.
okay, so we're not going to make changes. You're going to just put the link in.
Yes. It would reference that per the code, you know, per code, blah, 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 and then my link will go to that code. And you were going to look up the other thing.
Yeah, well,
And as an administrator, is that gonna make it more difficult to not have these tables versus having a link to go to state code?
the tables are not just for us, they're for everybody. So that's why we put the tables, because technically we were gonna put these tables in.
They're gonna be like, oh, okay.
So, I mean, when we
Yeah,
started
I can-
talking about this, the code, these tables that you're looking at weren't gonna be put in. And I said, I want these put in because these help navigate questions. these help, you can just go straight to a table and say, this is where we're getting this information from, so that they're not having to link to, now Indiana Building Code, if you're building a house, you should be going by Indiana Building Code, or your contractor would be going by Indiana Building Code, because they should know that. They should know that information, that they can't exceed a certain height, they can't exceed certain information. We do the bare minimum, and then if they exceed that, great. If they don't, they still have to be the bare minimum here.
And we could still add a line on there that said, or most recent Indiana code, that way if it changes next month, because everything changes, they can still, as fallback, if they don't agree with what they're seeing, they can check the code and say,
Yeah.
oh, look, let's
Well,
change.
a prime example is in Indianapolis, they changed the electrical code to require an upgrade in wiring from 14 gauge to 12 gauge. And a lot of counties did not make that change. You can still use 14 gauge in a lot of counties. But in Indianapolis, you have to use 12 because the code changed in Indianapolis, not the state code.
All right, well, do you have to have state code? I thought you said something, you have to have the minimum and maximum, or, you can't exceed Indiana state.
You can be more strict than whatever the state code is. You can't be less strict.
Okay, so do we have to, like on the maximum living area per unit?
What's the state code on that?
They don't have a minimum code.
Okay.
So that is based on what the county wants to see
Why
built
are
in
we,
Owen County.
why are we even subject to telling people what they can and cannot have as far as sizes?
So the biggest thing is that,
I understand height because of fire.
yeah, so the minimum is for, if someone builds, let's say, a 100 square foot house on their property, and it falls in on itself, and then the neighbors are all 2,000 square feet or more, if you're not regulating something, right now it's currently 720 square feet. So,
I would suggest that we have no minimum.
I would suggest.
As long as it's a well-built structure, why do we care?
And plus it depends on the
It's
family
supposed
size.
to be,
Is there a minimum code?
What?
Is there a minimum code requirement for quote-unquote a tiny house in the state?
the building code has 400 square feet.
Then that's the minimum.
That's tiny home for Indiana building
Because
code.
Indiana provides for tiny houses,
homes,
and that's the smallest you can have. So
they
that'd be
have
the-
certain
Yeah,
restrictions.
they can't be on wheels and just like that, yeah. Understand that.
I think that
Lessening it.
that's the general principle I was proposing, that we use that we go with a less restrictive policy. That we say that our requirements are the Indiana state code or the least restrictive.
Now, I'm pointing this out because we're on A1, not R1.
Yeah.
And I think there's a difference between the two.
Yeah, so these restrictions would not take away if you
Yeah.
set a subdivision.
Yes.
You would still have to go by those restrictions, the covenants. So if the covenants are 1,000 square feet.
Yeah, but later on in R1, you've got
not
this,
apply to anybody.
later on, you've got an R1 that has the exact same type of things on it.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
there's a,
So, yes, so these restrictions, but if a subdivision is already currently existing or future existing, and they say, I want a minimum of 1,000 square feet, that then would override
yeah,
this.
yes.
The one thing that is left out here is, like in my township, I have a tremendous quantity of people around, 70% of my population, I have over 1,776 people. That's 435 family units, and they live in places that's like 12 feet by maybe like 50 feet, which is,
600.
well, yeah, that's not the right, that's not the, it won't fall within that line. A lot of them live in like little shacks and stuff, where you only have maybe like 22 feet by maybe 18 feet, I guess, with no running water or anything. What I'm saying is, I've got a whole big bunch of people that cannot make this. They're not gonna make this, they're not gonna be within the
And
line.
that would not matter.
It does not affect anything that's already.
They're
currently
grandfathered.
built.
But you're
They
saying.
would be
Yes.
grandfathered in.
Yeah.
Where does it say that? I never read it anywhere.
There
And
is,
there's a part part where
There
it
is.
says grandfathered, anything currently existing is
Okay.
grandfathered
A
in.
lot of people lived there for a long time.
Right.
Yeah.
But now if they were to,
Changes.
Well, they pay
Now-
rent to somebody that lives in a different state.
so
Right.
if say the house burnt down
Yeah.
or whatever, if they left it for 6 months
Mhm.
without anything there, then they would have to adhere to the code.
That would be abandonment.
So
Okay.
that, at that point, it no longer is grandfathered in and it would have to then adhere to the
Yeah.
county's new code.
Which
So
would be
like-
400 feet.
So currently, we have a lot of people buying miniature sheds. Those sheds are not built to be lived in.
Well, they
I
say you
mean-
can't live in them.
Yeah, I've talked to some of the Amish people that build them, and they even agree, they would not suggest people live in them, because they're not structured frame-wise to have people live in them. People do, I know people do, and people have them converted, so. But, I mean, that's one of the other things, I mean, that's just, you know, but like I said, we currently have like 720. So.
So, again, we're looking at 400 feet for minimum size. That takes care of the tiny house community, and everything's grandfathered. So unless their house burns down and they abandon it for a little while,
And you can't make any changes like this,
Yep.
as far as you can't have another use for it, and you can't, a different use for it. And you can't, like, if you have a house now, you can't turn it into a workshop later. And you can't add on to it. And there's a lot that you can't do, but
Just says
As long
here
as
somewhere
it's
that
wrong.
you can't add on to.
yes,
you can't add on.
So like in any HOA,
yes.
we're not gonna get rid of the current poor that we have, but what you're trying to do is not get any more poor?
No, we're
You don't want
saying,
any more poor?
we're saying that in the state of Indiana, a tiny house, which is the smallest thing you can have, is 400 square feet. So that's what the minimum square footage is.
You can still live in your woods if you want to.
Yeah, I get people with tents.
So we're just saying, we're going with whatever the state minimum is on this case.
So you'd rather them just go live in the park in Bloomington?
No, the state has a minimum of 400.
Okay,
The state would have to change theirs to 200
okay.
for them to be able to do less than that anyway.
Because that's the smallest.
Because we can't go less than what the state has. Okay,
So is that getting recommended changed to 400 then?
Yes.
We're recommending everything state standard, don't be more restrictive than the state across the board. Okay.
And did you happen to find anything on the height for non-residential?
No, I didn't. I'll
Okay.
have to look at our book tomorrow.
Okay. All right. Anybody have anything else on the lot standards, utility standards?
You can get it squared away where we would put the value added.
Yes, the value added went onto the permitted use, and it's going to say value added per Indiana code.
Just want to make sure I
Had a lot go on. Yes, sir. I'm sorry, again.
The language that was just discussed about anything currently in existence is grandfathered in. Does that provision apply only to these agricultural housing we're talking about, or is that just
That's everything,
everything?
everything.
Yeah.
Everything that was conforming before this.
Right.
So if you were illegal before this, you're still illegal.
So if they, at some time in the future, decide to go with whatever these are, let's just say hypothetically, they agree 2 years from now to go with these, anything prior to that date of approval is grandfathered in.
But
If
if
they
they
not
not
be-
the court, you have to have proof that it was there before the UDO.
Yeah, so it's, if you're non-conforming currently, you're still gonna be non-conforming then. It's if you're wanting to make a major change to it, then you would have to bring certain things up to code. So, at that point.
So when you say non-conforming, I guess you're going back to 2003 when zoning was first put in here?
There's still stuff that's prior to that was non-conforming prior to that still exists. Because there's still things that, you know, we have had to have variances and things like that done to bring people up to the current,
Yes,
Does the grandfathering apply to non-housing things too, like let's
Yes.
say the chickens?
when you change codes, things are grandfathered or whatever they were, there's a stake in the ground. Anything that you had before that goes with whatever the code was then.
Okay, so like if I was gardening or whatever and then it became illegal, I'm still good to let garden because I was already doing it before?
Yeah, unless the state law changed.
Okay.
Difference between a code and a law. Like right now, you can't grow pot, but next week you can, you know. But your pot field is no longer good. I laugh at that because my brother-in-law was walking the farm one day and found like 20 plants at the far end of our farm. We had to call the sheriff. Okay, we're moving on. Page 19, Intensive Agricultural District, A2. Anything on that? Yes.
On the bottom of this chart here, where it says additional site development standards.
Yes.
You didn't cover any of that.
No, like the dumpster and trash.
Right.
Us. All right, the following development standards, they also apply to development in the district. See Chapter 3, Site Development Standards. All right, now what is your question?
So we didn't go through that. So
Okay. Accessory structure standards, buffer yard, my glasses.
I vote that we strike the whole buffer yard and landscaping standards. This is an agricultural.
Yeah, I kind of got to agree. Everybody fine? Okay, striking that.
I'm not sure what it means by accessory structure standards.
We'd probably have to go to that chapter and then come back.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is if I have a three-sided shed out there for my sheep, is that gonna meet the requirements? 'Cause I'm gonna have one in every paddock.
I will have to look at what Chapter 3 is.
Come down to the USDA recommendations for that specific animal.
So we'll table that portion until I can find out what Chapter 3 actually does say. And we'll deal with it our next meeting.
I know the driveway and access management standards, that had talked about, your own personal drive, or say like, or an access road. If there's already an access road in place. The county doesn't take care of those roads, we do.
Yeah, actually, in looking at this in further places down here, there are now things for, if you put a driveway in, how wide the easement has to be, like across somebody's property, how wide the easement has to be. You can't just say, this little thing, get the car in and it fits. It's got to be, I think, 35 feet. I think what the standard is now.
current standard's 50.
50 feet? Okay, I knew it was something.
The current one is like 50 feet. You have to give an easement of 50 feet.
And I saw in here, for example, like, if you have two people living on a private driveway, it falls into one category as far as what the surface material has to be. If you have more than two people living down the driveway, the first thing, it says first 40 feet has to be paved, which I thought was kind of silly.
What if you live on a gravel road?
If you live on a gravel road, it does not have to be paved.
If they what?
If you lived on a gravel road, it did not have to be paved. But if you lived on a paved road, then the driveway, if you had more than two people living down the driveway, had to be paved to the first 40 feet.
What are those subdivision standards?
No.
Because some of the subdivision standards requires pavement and
No, this is that-
green and all of that when developing it.
Because I was looking at, I think they're looking at this thing in relationship to all these quote-unquote private roads that I see where it's a private road, there's like, all up at the junction, there's like 12 or 14 people live down that, and that's a private road. And that comes out to a paved road, which means that the first 40 feet of that private road would have to be paved. And it has to be the standards of what the county calls for making that private road.
So like, they come out to a highway, the state.
State codes,
determines
yes.
How
But-
the highway approach is.
Yep.
Because they have to get. that.
And if it was a state highway, you went to state standards, but if it was a county road, then you went to whatever the county standards for the roads were. So if the county, for example, had 3 inches of binder and 2 inches of topping on top of it, that's what your first 40 feet had to be made out of. It got expensive to have private road.
They're not gonna, I mean, regular people can't afford to pay that. County can't even pay for that.
No.
County
You
can't
know?
even fix a road.
Yeah,
I mean, like if you go cataract to Cuba,
I know.
you're gonna hit a big old pothole, but hey,
Yeah.
it's all right.
Either that, you get the washerboard effect as it goes down.
But we know what to expect from the county, just like we know what to expect from our neighbors. We know what's there. We know what's gonna happen, what's not gonna happen. So I don't see how we could put guidelines in here knowing that it's not going to happen anyways. And, you know, it's just make it harder on the individuals to try to, you know, I just don't see why we should even have it.
I think and I'm not sure, but I think part of it is on the standards that what the county probably was looking at the time. I know from other states I've been in, going onto the road, if your driveway / road had gravel and the road you're going onto was paved, you're legally liable for window breakage and stuff like that, and the rock that's thrown up off your driveway, other cars, because you did not follow the standard on what that 40 feet was to get rid of that rock on your driveway before you hit the road.
Or anything that might wash off on the pavement.
Yeah. So I think that's what the reason they were doing it for. Lighting standards, I know, and most of those things I've seen, even in Indiana, you're prohibited from allowing your light to leave your property. The general cast of the light can go out that way, but you can't aim your spotlight at your neighbor, type of a thing.
Commercial properties, if you, like, when you did the Dollar General and Freedom and in Poland, you guys put provisions in there that the light had to stay within the Dollar General's property. It had to face towards their buildings so that it wasn't distracting for the neighboring properties around them.
Either you got to put a like cone around it so it cuts the spread out, so it focuses it down.
I've seen them actually blind people on the road.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I had a neighbor one time, he had big-ass spotlights, he was scared of the dark.
Stuff like that, because that's the safety of others.
Yep.
You know, if you're gonna be a safety of others, then I feel like it's about the only thing that should be in
Yep.
there.
Most of the stuff other than that looks like it's commercial related. Trash and dumpster
Trash and
standards.
dumpster, that was one I remember reading that one. And it said that the dumpster had to be the side and not seen by, you know, oncoming traffic or, you know, coming through. So example, going down the road, there was 2 dumpsters just to make it out to the main road. Mine and my neighbor's, okay, that you see. They're right in front of the barns. Or his is right in front of the road, you know, pretty much, it's close to the road. That way, it's a new construction, and it was back by the garage, in front of the garage, now it's closer to the barn, to the road, so they don't have to go all the way down the lane to dump the dumpster, you know? We bring trash out to it to dump it. So they don't have to go all the way down the lane to it.
Just as a question, how far off the road is it to the dumpster?
It's not even that far, but it didn't give restrictions on how far away. It said you couldn't have it on the side and sealable. It had to be behind the house, and if it was on the side, it had to be, you know, like something in front of it.
Let's just agree to strike that one.
Huh?
Yes.
Yeah, couldn't be seen by the property line.
So the intent,
That's not,
if the intent is safety, I can see it. But some of these are just, I don't want to see my neighbor's trash.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, this is a rural area. No, if it's a safety thing, if their dumpster is prohibited, is sitting out by the road and you can't see to pull out, I can
That's a
understand.
safety, yes.
But otherwise, that's why we live in Owen County in a rural area.
And I agree from the fact it's rural, yes.
Right, so I would strike trash and dumpster standards, I would strike storage standards. And the sign
And the
standards.
structure,
And what?
structure standards,
I'm sure like covering it and things like that, like.
It says may also apply, it doesn't say will apply, why don't we just strike that whole?
Just because I don't know what chapter 3 is on, I'm kind of stuck on saying strike stuff off, because this appears to also cover commercial stuff, not just residential stuff.
But it's in the chart that says A1, so if.
Right, but it's.
But A1 does have
it's
commercial stuff in
all
it.
the charts. It's in every single one of the charts.
Right.
If you look at it, it's in every single one of the charts.
I don't
So,
think it needs
so
to
should it be
a whole
additional
lot.
site development standards for businesses?
That's why I said, I need to see what chapter 3 says. If chapter 3 is related to commercial only, then it's an entirely different discussion we're having. If it's,
It's A1,
A1 just means it's a farm.
okay,
That doesn't mean it's not commercial.
okay, well, can we just change it to additional site development standards for commercial property?
or commercial.
Again, just because it's A1 doesn't mean it's not commercial.
I understand, but right now it just says additional site development standards. What
Okay.
I'm suggesting is all of this sounds more like business versus residential farm area.
Okay?
So there's, as far as the dumpsters and the signage and this and that.
So you're-
Structure.
You're suggesting where it says additional site development, when used for business?
No,
Are you-
additional site development standards for commercial.
For commercial, used for business, for commercial, okay.
Comment, if I may, please. All this section to me is saying, we've got these things up above that we have to deal with, but we also have to look at all of those things later on in the code to make sure they are applicable to what we're dealing with. So nothing to me needs struck out, because all it's saying is, we have to look through those codes to see if anything else affects our particular need for this property. They may affect it, they may not.
That's true.
And that's all that clause is saying,
Yeah.
it's just a catch-all safety. So when someone not familiar with the codes reads up here, things they can do and not do, this just reminds them they've got to go a little deeper. That's how I look at that myself.
Yeah, and then when we get into chapter 3, we can say,
Then we can,
Yeah.
whatever specifics we're gonna come up with, fine.
All right. that's what I'm saying.
Like Susan said, that section there is apparently on every one of these different zoning districts. It's just a reminder, you gotta go there and see what's there.
One question I do have is on the, actually skipped it without bringing it up, on the agriculture district A1 lot standards, these setbacks and stuff are on the ones that are from your front, how it defined the front of your property, is that from the center of the road?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's been there for 20-plus years. I mean, it should be grandfathered in for fencing, pasture.
No, these are just for structures, this is just structurally. If you build or place a home on a property, you need to measure from the center of the road 50 feet back, and that's where the front porch or whatever should be at 50 feet back.
Yeah, when you built your house,
It's
if
currently
the thing,
75.
yeah.
This is getting closer because we've had more variances for 50-footers to the 50-foot mark, because either the property drops off in the back, or you've got places in Jackson Township where it is literally just a ravine behind it, and you can't build that far back, so they get a variance for it. So this is coming closer to the road, but it's also staying outside of the right-of-way, of the county's right-of-way, and also so that, if, say, you're in a curve, and someone drives off, the farther back you are, the safer your home would be from getting hit by something, So it's keeping all structures, at one point it was keeping all structures back 50 feet.
But if you live on a place with a sharp 90-degree curve, shouldn't the county be putting up railing, some type of barrier? Because that is, yeah.
That would be a highway department question.
I worked at, I mean, we're supposed to, in the subdivisions and everything, all roads and everything should be satisfactory to the design and the traffic flow.
So most subdivisions, most current subdivisions have setbacks of their own, which could be up to 25 feet. Some are 50 feet. It just depends on when they were developed and what the aesthetic the person was developing them under. So, some are more restrictive, and the county has been restrictive to 75 feet. Now they're coming more towards the roadway, but trying to still have enough separation, because you're going from the center of the road, not the edge of the road.
Well, prime example, Texas Pike, Coach building sites, or whoever's building that site. On the edge of the road, there's a ditch. Two cars cannot legal, or a school bus cannot actually pass safely. The ditch should be taken care of by the county, or a proper guardrail.
The problem with that is it's a 100-year ditch and you can't touch it.
So there are, I've been on multiple roads in this county, and there are roads that are no more than a cattle path.
Oh, yeah, good.
Several people live down that. You can't pass, two cars cannot pass at all. One will have to back up, or, and go into someone's driveway. So, and they are county roads too. They are actual county roads, but, that there is a more of a county highway department issue on that part. This is just taking care of the building standard of how far back you need to be off the road for safety.
And I'm on the BZA too, and that's where these kind of things come. We've been very good about when people come in and say, hey, I can't go back but 35 feet. And I'll go out and look, and Howland County there's nothing back there but a ravine. Obviously, you can't go back any further than 35 feet. We've been pretty good about allowing that within reason. And looking at the adjacent properties, I had one up your way, Barron, where there's nobody out there on 42 that's 50 feet off of 42. So having another house at, I think it was 52, is not a problem. And it was 75 at the time, and we gave them the variance. You got to use common sense.
This also lets for a standard of houses, so that if, say, the road does expand at some point, they do have the room to expand the road without houses being set right up against the road. That gives them that leeway, because currently, I think some roads are 18 feet from center, and for the right-of-way for the counties, or some are 20 feet. So if you take out that 20 foot out of that 50 feet, you're pretty close to the road at that point, still, with 50 feet.
So several years ago, we had a grant given to us from the state of Indiana for some of our roads to be redone. I don't remember when that happened, but it was very limited, and it was only for towns small like what we have right here. The big cities didn't get it, just the small communities did.
Yeah, so.
Just make sure they
Okay, anything else on the charts? Page 19, Intensive Agricultural District.
We got 10 minutes to cut off. It's 8:20.
8:30.
I know, but it's pretty close.
Huh?
She said not to start a new section since it's
Oh.
Do you want
closed.
to wait?
If everybody's in agreement, we can
We
shut
can
it
wait.
down now.
Okay?
I don't mind getting home 10 minutes early. Does anybody else? So, like I said, let me just do a little cleanup here and then we'll go. So this will be the last joint meeting between the planning commission and the committee. So the committee, with Mr. Gant, Mr. Purcell, and the members out here, you guys are going to have to communicate with each other, and you're going to have to come up with a place to meet.
We meet at night, you gotta get enough food to the courthouse.
Right, and you can ask for this room, I don't know how that works. But that way you won't have us in your way and we won't be in your way. And then just continue to work through it like you're doing. We can argue all night about whether we want UDOs and planning and zoning, but that's not gonna accomplish what you guys are currently doing. This was a productive meeting. I'd like to see those continue. And then if we get into the new year and the new commissioners decide whatever the new commissioners decide, then we'll back up and look at it from that perspective. That's all we can do.
Yeah, like I said before, I believe most everybody who's involved with this wants this to go away. But if it doesn't go away, I think we like to have something we can live with in the event it doesn't. Yes.
Is your committee going to publicly announce where they're going to meet and allow us to join them, or is it going to be a private thing?
Good question.
So the meetings will have to be advertised. They have to be advertised, just like the regular meetings of the planning commission and the BZA. So they will have to set several dates and publicize all those dates and have a location.
Where do we publish them at?
They have to be publicized in the newspaper, they'll probably be publicized on the county website. The committee members will be getting, like they do, will get updates on them. And then there is,
I think I saw something that said something about the county courthouse has a posting place, you know?
there is a board outside of the building. It can be posted in there for reference as well. Outside the building department, I usually post all of the legal notices out there and on the board out here. So that if anyone's in the courthouse, they can see those notices as well.
So could I ask that you post it on the website, because this is a rural community, we don't all live really close. If you post it in a timely manner on the website, that would.
Yeah, so it has to be posted at least 10 days prior to the first meeting anyways. So they'll have to, everybody will have to make that decision and get those dates set before anything can be posted.
But
So
can
yes,
you
it will
post
be
it on
posted on the website.
Yeah.
Yes.
I want to make sure, I do not have an updated copy. I don't know what you have. I know a couple of us do not
So-
have all. I need to make sure we have, all have the same copy, what
Right.
you guys are going over.
If you would like to come by the building department, I can give you a full copy of it with everything in it.
Yeah, right now you want to look at the bottom
Yeah.
where it says
Just give me,
1024,
That's what I
and
have.
that's on the website,
if,
so you know.
I don't have.
But that's what
I
you
don't
should,
even print this
If-
off every single time
if you,
It's not, I just printed a new one off today, thinking it was the
If-
revised.
if you want to put, I'll stay a little bit after, and if you want to come up and put your name down, so that I know how many to print, I'll print them. It does take a lot of time and a lot of ink, so, and a lot of paper. So, if you want to put your name down, I will get you a printed copy of it, the full printed copy from the, 10/24. So, okay?
And
yes.
just so I can put it on the record,
Yes.
what page are we going to start and at what title?
Page
So that-
19, top of the page, Intensive Agricultural District A2, number 2.
All right, with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Question, please.
Oh, go ahead.
It sounds like, can we request to use this room?
I don't know that.
And who
You know
do we
the
talk to?
answer to that.
You would have to request it from the commissioners.
Okay.
And the only difference is because we have to have security here, so it also have to be negotiated if the security would be here at the same time, because they have to be here as well.
Okay.
So if there is an alternative location that has a bigger meeting room that you could find that would
My
not
issue-
require security to have to be here, additional.
The library, I'm not sure what time they close, but they have that private room, they can use there.
But do audio visual, just like you're in charge
We do
of,
not have, so this room is the only room that has YouTube. You can't take it anywhere else because it doesn't work anywhere else.
Right.
We tried it
But
before and it didn't.
part of what
work.
I'm getting at is,
We've been on deck.
you're able to pull up these different screens in front of all of us.
Right.
That would be very handy in trying to have that capability. So I guess I just need to make a request of the commissioners, not for the next meeting, but
No, so you would need to go, I would suggest you go to the first commission, I can ask that it be put on the agenda, and the committee members, some of the committee members come to the first commissioners meeting
in
of the
January.
year, and then request
Right.
to use it, and then as long as it doesn't coincide with any other council, commissioner, planning, BZA meetings, you should be fine.
When's that commissioner meeting gonna be?
The 8th, I believe, is the next date.
Well, hopefully they can get this
What
one.
time?
It will be at 9 o'clock, but they will be reorganizing, so that will be I think the only morning
That'd
meeting.
be January 8th, 9 a.m. in this room.
Yes.
I will try to get with Bill when he's available and see if we can get, like, hopefully a section of area set up for us. Also, unless I hear some big argument, I'd like to see us do this twice a month instead of once a month, because it's going to really draw out a long time if we go down to once a month.
I don't disagree with that thought for this separate committee.
I mean, you guys are outside of us now. I mean, you're a
Okay.
subcommittee of us, so you have to follow the rules as far as, listing it and putting it in the paper and all that. You have to follow those rules. But beyond that, you're on control of your
And
own
Susan
committee.
can help us with that?
Within reason.
Yeah, within reason.
What, right, but I mean, we'll send you a request to announce these dates, so we're gonna have to meet separate at some point,
So
just
the other-
committee,
The
to
other
get some
thing
of
would
that
be
ironed out.
is that if you want me to be at the meetings as well,
That
this
was
is
my
a
name.
planning commission meeting as well. I'm here for the planning commission as their secretary, but your committee she's your secretary. So
And I have no
I would
rule.
not be coming to your meetings. You can ask the commissioners if they are, if I'm reappointed at the beginning of the year, you can ask them that you can request my involvement at that time.
Would you like to attend it?
Huh?
Would you like to attend?
Well, I mean, since I'm the one who's gonna have to determine it, like I said, at that point.
Yeah.
I think that's a good recommendation because she knows a lot.
Yeah,
Right, it would be good for her to be there. It would be good if we can also have the lawyer there. See, that's gonna be a bigger issue, or we're gonna have to find a way in our little committee to make up a list of questions to send to the lawyer to get.
Well, and that's the other thing, is that you can also request that at the commissioners meeting. Two, is to request that the county attorney be present at all meetings as well, and
now
Start the negotiation from
Yes.
there.
I'm gonna ask a loaded question here. How come the lawyer isn't showing up?
the lawyer isn't here today because he had prior engagement, he had already had it.
And for the last few meetings?
I know he had something last meeting too, because he was,
Okay.
since these are night meetings and he still has.
He's got a lot of business,
To
yeah.
live outside of being the attorney too.
We just need a case of eggs and find out where his house is
So,
at.
but yes, I mean, you can request that he be involved as well, specifically outside of the planning commission meetings, so.
Mr. Chairman, it's 8:30.
Yes, yeah. So, motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn. So moved, we are adjourned. Thank you very much for coming, guys.
If you want to get with Bill and see if we can have a meeting just among the committee members to work out some of the details.
Yeah, evidently, he was in